get started with our lovely spaces today, where we've brought together a couple really exciting new projects that are going to be releasing on Near. Had a little bit of alpha from Near Big Brain of some hot new, interesting infrastructure projects that are moving forward. So, looking forward to being able to bring us all together today to speak about what that kind of future of the Near projects are doing in the infrastructure world and how we can then start to introduce them to our wider community. So I would love to be able to start introducing everyone. Big Brain, you wanted to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really exciting, just especially with newer chains when they start to get these type of infrastructure projects involved, because as we know, where the devs go, the people go, and these devs specifically, what they've created, I think is really going to be exciting for the future. But I think it's going to also help to ease the friction that we see often in newer chains. So without further ado, if you could, we'll start off with Ozzy. If you want to kind of give a brief introduction of your project, a little bit of how you actually came to Near, and anything else you'd like to share, since I'm sure that both of you guys are kind of in stealth. So welcome to the spaces.
Thanks, Big Brain. Hi, everyone. It's really fun to be here. I'm sure I know some of you, or you might have heard of me. Me and a couple of my longtime crypto buddies have been in the Near ecosystem since May of 2020, so about 4 or 5 months before the network even launched. And it's been really interesting to watch kind of Near as an L1 evolve relative to other L1s. The product that we're talking about today is what we call Spaceport, and Spaceport is really the result of taking a step back and asking the honest question: what does an L1 ecosystem actually need in order to bring in institutions, capital in the form of liquidity or investment, or simply raw users to grow to a capacity that it becomes relevant and can really start to take off on its own. So Spaceport, to kind of keep it simple, although there are a couple of nice innovative design twists to it because of the Near account model, but the simple version of Spaceport is it's at first just a custody platform for retail and institutions to one-click interact with the different dApps in the Near ecosystem. Moving forward, this will eventually move into a full-fledged licensed financial entity structured offshore, such that it can offer exchange, on-ramp, and financial services as well, specifically for the Near ecosystem and NEP 141 tokens, the whole gamut. I'm sure we'll get into the thesis of why this is important and why I think this is something that is really, really essential for making sure that Near stays relevant in the next 5 to 10 years. But I'll just stop there for now and leave it at that.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for that introduction. Definitely going to be exciting to kind of dive in deep, just so we can really give a perspective to the people of just like what's going on behind the scenes and what they can get excited about for the future. So on Machina, if you would introduce your project and yourself, and welcome to the spaces.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I am Jonathan Bryce. I'm actually here with Mark Collier as well. We're on one phone, so we can join under the OnMachina handle. And we have Paulina, who is the other co-founder. She's Polycarp here in the Twitter space. We are building a decentralized storage network. We are actually starting with storage. Really, we think that we're going to probably have a variety of different infrastructure services that we build out. The thing that I think we really believe is that Web3 infrastructure has to be at least as good or better than Web2 infrastructure if we're going to see those developers move. This is a point you made just a minute ago, that developers are really key to platforms and ecosystems and making those have traction that goes mainstream. And Mark and I both come from a background of cloud infrastructure and open source. Paulina comes from a crypto background. And the thing that we are really focused on is building great storage at the fundamental level that's then enhanced with those capabilities and features that you can only have with decentralized services, decentralized blockchain for kind of breaking the lock-in of centralized hyperscale cloud providers that have basically formed this oligopoly with a stranglehold on all of the world's digital infrastructure right now.
Two very exciting projects, and I think what's really cool about what both of you are doing is that you're bringing something new to the ecosystem. I think a big thing that we sometimes forget is that we're very early in all the Web3, what I call the Wild West of Web3, and it's now the opportunity for projects like your guys' selves to be innovating, to be finding a chain, a community where there's the opportunity to break in, provide something that is new, and to really be a part of that next level sort of growth as we move forward over the next few years. Obviously, in a more kind of bearish sort of markets, that's time for builders to shine. And so I would love to start to dive in a little bit more on your projects, and specifically kind of starting off with Near as a whole. You guys have both chosen to be building on Near, and so I'm curious to learn a little bit about what that kind of looked like. What was the big pull for coming over to our lovely little community in there? And if Spaceport, if you wanted to kick us off and tell us a little bit about why you broke into Near and how you see the opportunity.
Yeah, sure thing. I think to keep it simple, blockchain is a general purpose technology. In order for the technology to diffuse as far and as efficiently as possible, it needs to be usable. And when we first kind of discovered the Near ecosystem in May of 2020, it was a very clear light bulb moment of they're focusing on trying to simplify and abstract a lot of the complexity with wallets and seed phrases and, gas fees even. And they understand that if this technology has a chance to grow, not in 1, 2, or 3 years, but in 10 to 20 to 30 years, it needs to be foundationally designed to be user-friendly and easy to operate with. And since then, digging into the Near account model, it has been it's been a very, very interesting and cool value add that I think other ecosystems are still trying to abstract their way to, that Near kind of has baked into the very core logic of how it operates. So that was what brought us in. And I think beyond markets and beyond the financial game that goes on in L1s, the Near team has been quite consistent in shipping, quality enhancements to the protocol and in rolling out the protocol and delivering on their technical promises. So those two, I think, things together are why we came and why we're still here and why we support Near.
Yeah, I can chime in too with kind of our thought process. It's similar in that we think if we want to see mass adoption, we have to be thinking at kind of global scale, billion user type scale. And if we're thinking at that type of scale, there are specific patterns that we've seen in the world of technology to enable that and to support that type of usage. I had gone around and looked at some of the architecture and technical underpinnings for a number of the layer ones, and had that similar kind of aha moment when I started diving deep into Near. Started talking with Ilya, and the background of Ilya and Alex, the focus on a scale out architecture that is, again, that pattern that we've seen work, and the consistency in kind of delivering on the roadmap that they promised really convinced me that this is a technology that has that potential to be global scale, to bring on billions of users, to handle just massive transactions and do it in a way that keeps performance really high and costs low. Again, if we are thinking about where we all want to see Web3 go with millions of developers and apps, billions of users, then we have to have much faster transaction rates than what you see on a lot of the layer ones. We have to have much lower transaction costs than what you've historically seen on a lot of the layer ones, in order to go to that mass market where developers need to basically be able to roll the cost of the blockchain aspects into the overall cost usage of their business model. And so yeah, I mean, I think the technology side was what really attracted me, and then as Ozzy was saying about the usability, that was also a big moment where we're able to do things with accounts on the Near blockchain that you can't do very many other places, which leads to better usability, better security, better integration, and all of these things are the things that make me just very excited and optimistic about building on Near.
No, thank you both for your insight there, and it's always nice to know why. We want to know why you're here and what you want to do while you're here. But I guess from the community aspect, since Near is such a tight knit community, and in the DeFi space, I've seen a couple projects that have actually partnered together with NFT collections. What are some of the tactics that you see in as far as both your projects getting involved with the community and getting them excited about what you're building and why they should go tell their friends?
I can probably kick this one off. So I've coming from the community, kind of living in the Reddit forums and the 4chan world in 2016, 2017, and then kind of, growing up more out into the open with how crypto's evolved. It's always been an interesting dynamic between the people who are interested in the markets and the people who are interested in the tech. And I think where we're at right now is a point in time in crypto where there's a bit of a convergence between the two. Sometimes people throw around the term like the gems, gaming, entertainment, metaverse, social. You could add in something like refi or DeSci as well into that, to just kind of expand how the crypto has evolved and grown in the last 2 to 3 years beyond your classic creator economy, DeFi infrastructure and the L1 tokens. And so I think for us, more than anything, I think if you look at the existing custody platforms and existing exchanges that service the industry today, they're predominantly backwards looking insofar as they focus on the financial, they focus on the tokens, they focus on custody, they focus on wallets. They're not optimizing to build what we would say is like the Steam gaming engine of crypto, right? Like the one-click integration to 50 play-to-earn games where a 12-year-old from Thailand can get on and play and have their funds custodied and, have the freedom to kind of navigate the dApps in as if it's like an app store, right? So this is really the vision of bringing together an entry point for, frankly, the billions of users that have yet to hear about crypto over the next 10 to 15 years and are going to be able to get their hands, dirty playing and doing something and not just holding a token and seeing if it goes up or down. And I think there will be quite a lot of support for this type of product because the dApps really need this too, right? If you're building a play to earn game in an ecosystem, it's like you're standing all by yourself. If you can create that platform or that space where we can synthesize and aggregate the products together, then you can join forces and jointly market and jointly discount and jointly prepay fees and things like that to try to get more users and more exposure on both sides of the coin.
No, Ozzy, and see, that's the reason why we have these spaces, because the type of project that you have actually, every gaming project in Near should be reaching out to you. Like it makes absolutely no sense that this isn't like highlighted everywhere, as far as the ability that you're going to have to scale, but obviously take away the friction when it comes to just a one click. So, we've got to do a better job just from all of us involved in making sure people know what you're building, but also how to be involved. So, thank you for that. On Machina, would you like to tackle that question as well?
Sure. Yeah, this is Mark. I think from our standpoint, looking at sort of fundamental infrastructure, and as Jonathan said, starting with storage, it's really, really important that we are always thinking about giving true utility, truly reliable, scalable, performant storage with a lot of capacity, and just sort of fundamentally providing what people take for granted in infrastructure, especially if you look at where most people build their tools today, which is AWS and on S3, and including just even a lot of the decentralized blockchain systems are currently today running on these centralized infrastructure services. So we're really aiming for that full stack decentralization vision, and I think we have to be able to first and foremost just deliver something that truly has utility, that truly is reliable, and then at the same time be able to do things in terms of next generation storage that you just absolutely can't do with those other storage systems. And so I think this kind of next generation of developer that really does value decentralization and values participating in an economy where all of the participants have freedom and have the ability to make their own choices, have their own control over their data. So it's kind of this combination of the idealism and the desire for people in the community to participate in something they really believe in, and then this sort of grounded practical reality, which is this is storage, this is infrastructure. It cannot go down. It cannot have outages and performance issues. And so I think that's kind of what we're aiming for in terms of the sweet spot. And we think that, we have opportunities for people to participate in the node operations, contributing storage, as well as building apps on top. So there are these different layers of participation in which we think people can add value and be part of that vision, and ultimately kind of provide the infrastructure that all the next generation apps run on. And so that's kind of our philosophy and our approach.
Awesome. And real quick on Machina, because you made a point there that I just want to make sure you emphasize, because there's actually a couple of projects that are in the audience. But can you tell us a little bit of the difference versus what you guys are doing storage-wise? Yes.
It broke up just a little bit. You said the difference between what?
Yes, just IFPS and the storage that you guys are creating.
Yeah, okay. So there are obviously a few decentralized storage systems that are out there already. We've looked at those, some of them in a lot of depth, and I think that there's always an interesting time at the beginning of kind of a new market. And as we were saying, we're still pretty early here with this, where people can go and explore new approaches, and that's a lot of times where big innovation happens. I think that one of the things that I've seen, though, as I've talked with users of those systems, is that they're struggling with actually the fundamentals of storage. So literally just the basics of writing data and reading it back in a really consistent, reliable, performant, cost-effective way. And so, that's one of the things that we decided early on. We needed to start with great storage, and not be so focused on kind of Web3 first that we handicapped the storage experience to some level. So one of the things that I would say is we're definitely extremely focused on the fundamentals of storage and delivering a really good experience around that. I think something else that I view as an important part of everyone's Web3 business model is driving towards true usage. Mark mentioned that utility is a key to building community and getting people who want to come participate. But ultimately, you have to have them participating and consuming whatever it is that you're using. And when we've seen some of these other storage systems out there, they have structured their kind of their models where it has incentivized a really large build out and not as much usage on those systems, which just kind of warps the basics of supply and demand. And I think that it's sort of the go to market, the demand side of the equation that I think we've missed in some of these. So we have some ideas around about kind of leveraging networks of folks who provide infrastructure right now in kind of like a full-time professional capacity, leveraging their markets, their customer bases to drive usage. Ultimately, the value of a storage network is going to be determined by how much data it's storing and how much data it's serving back to the world. And so, I think that's something that we have a very strong focus on is the demand side, and making sure that we're creating something that's not just sort of a giant empty pool of storage that's not really getting used.
That is a great answer, and you would be a very good, honest politician. So I know you're building in stealth. A great answer. At least it gives us context as far as your approach, your team's approach, and where you guys are taking it. That's super interesting. So thank you for that. I'll let Cap go to our next question here.
I wanted to talk just a little bit on that point of the community and how you guys are essentially going to be going to market, how you're going to be breaking into the space. And Big Brain mentioned that some projects, when they go to market, they're working with people in the community. They're working with different NFT projects, working with already established communities. Is that something that you guys have been thinking about? I'm wondering if there's any alpha to sneak peek to the people in the spaces about what guys you've got plans for, how you're going to be moving forward, and is there like a date that we should look towards when you guys are going to be releasing?
Well, I don't have too much alpha. I can kind of specify a little bit in the details of how we're approaching this topic, and I think how we're going to actually approach the landscape differently than others might have in the past. Simply put, like that two sides of the coin description that we said before is going to be a pretty big part of getting the right dApps into space for at the get-go. So it's going to be pretty hard on games, metaverse, and potentially NFT projects, depending on the nature of the project or the functionality of what the user would be purported to do. From a more partnership-wide perspective, it's actually twofold. You're trying to pull over crypto natives that are looking for a trusted custody platform, because despite I think how everyone says, crypto natives like to custody themselves, self-custody, which I think a fair amount of us do, there's a lot as well that enjoy the ease and the convenience of having shared custody or safe custody with a platform that they can on-ramp and off-ramp to and from. So on the front of focusing on the crypto natives, focusing on the existing community, existing NFT communities, PFP communities, certain Discord groups that have emerged around L1s, that all is very much on the table in order to kind of bring users in. We're pretty close with the Near Week guys, and they're quite familiar with where we're going. And then kind of outward looking, right? If you consider the fact that I guess, around this time at crypto, we have about 70 million wallets opened across all the chains, right? So around 5 billion users on the internet, 70 million wallets have been opened. What's the play for the non-crypto natives? We're looking really heavily in Africa and South America. And I think that's a bit different than how other exchanges have necessarily played their cards. You had the whole FTX branding thing where they were keen on getting certain stadium rights in the United States. But if we're talking gems, right? If we're talking dApps, if we're talking users, biggest population demographic hubs are going to be in sub-Saharan Africa and in terms of eager developer base, Latin America, Central America, South America. So I think that strategy as a whole means for Near, we're going to work with Latam. We know quite a few of the OG Near Latin American builders, and then most definitely with Sankore and the Near Africa team that's doing such a good job of getting Near out around Africa. And I think with that kind of overall combination, coupled with hopefully, a bear market turning into a more exciting market, some better dApps coming to market, we'll have some good momentum to get a foothold and to start scaling this baby.
Yeah, I can jump in. This is Mark, and kind of piggyback on a lot of what you said. I think from the standpoint of the key drivers of excitement and interest and engagement around the infrastructure layer that we're working on, if you just look generally across the world right now, I think there's a much bigger awareness and interest and concern around data privacy, data control, a much more mainstream kind of look at, or just even awareness of the fact that there's a handful of companies in the world that are in a small number of countries in the world that sort of own and control our data, and people are starting to wish for alternatives, perhaps look for ways to keep data in a specific geography for data sovereignty reasons. And so kind of thinking about who is leading that effort to first just identify is it a problem, identify other people that want to solve this problem, and sort of just data control, data privacy. It is top of mind for a lot more people. We see in Europe in particular, there's a ton of interest in regulation, which not everybody loves all regulation, but it is part of the market dynamic, right? So you have people starting to ask, should we really have our data under the control of 2 or 3 companies in the world that are, basically based in one country? And more people are saying, no, that doesn't sound like a great end result. And you can certainly go much higher than just the data itself, but that's the starting point for awareness. And then you think about the whole application layer and people that are developing applications that want to serve these markets for these users who really do want more control of their data. So they may not want to have their applications running in just 2 or 3 clouds in the world. And if you look right now, that Microsoft and Amazon control more than half of the kind of public cloud market share. So it's a duopoly or an oligopoly. So at each layer, whether it's individuals looking at their data and asking, who owns it, who has control of it, why don't I own it, why don't I have control of it, to the application layer developers who are saying, why do I have to run my application on just 1 or 2 clouds? And then ultimately to people who actually own and operate data centers that have infrastructure, that are network operators that want to be able to take what's effectively real estate and sort of yield farm your data center, if you will, and try to get more value out of the infrastructure they provide, who want to participate in the economy of providing infrastructure and don't want to just be gobbled up by 1 or 2 companies or put out the pasture because of an oligopoly. So those are kind of like 3 distinct layers of people that have interests that we think at some level align through the way we kind of are approaching the build out of OnMachina. And so we think that each of those kind of interests and reasons people would want to participate and ways to participate will each kind of add to the the momentum for our community as we start to build it out.
I just want to add on that point. That's a pretty cool thesis, especially pertaining to the privacy. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with the lunar punk solar punk dichotomy, but I definitely feel like maybe it's the bear market, but I definitely feel like the kind of lunar punk ethos is evolving much more strongly in crypto these days than the original solar punk ethos. But yeah, really interesting what you guys said.
I think it's so important. What you were describing there is you're looking at multiple different layers of your project and multiple different ways of speaking with different people and bringing them in. And both of you are taking that approach that when we're going to market, when releasing our product, there's different verticals that we want to be paying attention to. There's different opportunities for us to be able to provide value to people within the space. And so I wanted to take an opportunity for us to, if I know you guys are in stealth, but like to dive a little bit deeper into where you guys think that you're able to add that additional innovation to the market what are the like USPs, the top like exec summary of how you're adding that little bit extra to essentially beat the competition, but then also go into a new market and provide that additional layer of the infrastructure.
You guys want to start with this one?
I can chime in on this. So for our goals that I mentioned earlier of prioritizing excellent storage above all, we have focused on an architecture that that utilizes a sharding concept for pools of storage, and basically as a consumer of the storage network, you can select a pool of storage, and that's that you then interact with. You save data into it, retrieve data out of it. Those pools of storage, one of the things that's cool about it is, obviously sharding is a very important tactic for scaling, for giving you the ability to scale horizontally, to have failure partitioning and deliver a more consistent experience with isolation failure and all of that kind of thing. My dog is part of the security model for our storage system. But the other thing that's great about taking that kind of approach is it lets you determine certain attributes that you maybe want to use at different times. So there may be times where you want your storage located in a specific region. If you have regulated data, you may want to be able to geofence it to only nodes that are within the EU. Or you may have some storage that is more kind of low priority archives, and you are fine if it's a little slower. You're fine if the risk of data loss exists, versus other data that must be extremely performant and have an extremely low risk of data loss. And so by designing around this concept of backend storage shards that users are able to access with different attributes, I think that's going to create a really important additional capability especially in the Web3 space, where you can have the options that you need. Any major application has a variety of different kinds of storage that have a variety of different performance and resilience profiles. And so this is one of the key things that we've built into our architecture from the beginning.
Cool. On our side, just to clarify, this is like innovative differentiating points, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's how you're able to like stand out across everybody. And when you're at a cocktail party, when someone says, "Okay, so what makes you different?" You're kind of like spit answer back to them.
Yeah, nice. So this is pretty funny because we actually had this meeting with the Jane Street guys in New York during Masari, and it was really funny because after we kind of explained the logic of what we were doing, the response was, "I love the bear market because that's when all the real, cool stuff actually gets built." But the logic behind the differentiating factor of Spaceport, and actually why it's called Spaceport, is because what we're trying to do is beyond what I've described up until this point, dealing with custody and financial licensing and kind of aggregating users to be able to enter the world of dApps on Near and not just simply speculate, is because of the way that the Near account model works, where you can essentially burn or generate access keys for an account. You would think in the first instance, great, this provides the foundations for a robust account marketplace domain service on Near, which, by the way, the auction for those domains never ended up happening. So back in 2020, this is like quick little side tangent. Back in 2020, when the launch started, there was the expectation that they would have an auction and you would be able to buy, BigBrain France, BigBrain USA, Aussie America, and you would basically have a Google domain service built into the high-level account names of the Near ecosystem. And under the assumption, if access keys can be generated and burned, you can actually buy and sell these different accounts with everything held within them, right? So it could be lock tokens, it could be experience from a certain account, it could be DAO membership for a certain account, so on and so forth. That has not been adequately leveraged on Near in a non-custodial fashion, let alone in a custodial fashion. So what I mean by that is, imagine an on-ramp, a financial license, entity with the legal ability to hold and custody assets for users to then provide this type of service on top of them for them to buy and sell accounts. That's end of side tangent. That's like nice little value add that Near really makes easy. The real innovation of Spaceport, though, lies in taking that exact concept of generating and burning access keys to an account and applying it to being able to dock and undock your assets and your account from Spaceport as a whole. So you can imagine if you were at some point to want to not custody with a platform, if you wanted to go solo, you could basically move all the different accounts you had open, you could move all your funds to a single account, and then you could eject that account from Spaceport custodially, generate a new seed phrase for yourself, and self-custody out into the Nearverse as your own little, cryptonaut. The same works vice versa. So if you were coming as a crypto native and you are doing a bunch of, degenerate yield farming activities, self-custody style, but you're looking to cash out and you have a Spaceport account, you can on-ramp your account. You can dock your account into Spaceport, whereby you cede custody over the account to Spaceport, and then you're able to quickly offload that to a real fiat intermediary. So when we explain it in that way, really the thesis of Spaceport is that we believe that the fundamental value proposition of crypto is ownership of identity, data, and money, and the transitory period in which we're going to move from a Web2 internet where you own nothing and you're the behavioral surplus to a Web3 internet where you can own everything and you can, reap the value of your participation, is a transitory platform whereby you can actually have the best of both worlds. And you can custody at some points and you can undock at some points and you can move accounts in and out and benefit from having the safe assurance that your money is held in cold storage through a legal custodian and the freedom of optionality to take a small amount out and go LP or do what you want to do, on your own. And I think if you look at where we are, and this actually applies to what the OnMachina guys are talking about, if you look at where we are in the context of the evolution of crypto, it's like mid 1990s level of the original internet. So if you look at this thesis on a 10 to 15 year time frame, that's, I guess, what really excites me about it, is like we're going to change the narrative of what crypto is and how crypto works, and we're going to actually start moving towards the ultimate vision and the promise of crypto that I think has kind of been inescapable to date between the Celsius, the BlockFis, and the FTXs of the world kind of getting in the way. That would be my overall summary.
And that is a great overall summary there. I think we can stop the spaces for the day. We'll just have your two projects go, and I think we're pretty much good to go now. But no, thanks so much for your insight. I love it, love the passion for it. And I think we have a passionate community member. So I think this is a good point to just let the community ask a question. Dev has definitely been, yep, there goes another one, definitely been keeping up with the emojis. So we'll go ahead and invite you up and feel free to ask your question to the panel.
While he's just coming up, I think it's always really exciting with Power of Spaces. You're able to bring people up and we're able to involve the community into our discussion. It's something that we always like to do. And so anyone else who would love to be able to ask a question to the panel and join us in our conversation, please feel free to request. And as long as we have time, we'll be able to get you up and be able to welcome you in. But Devbose, if you want to take the stage, my friend.
Hello, hi, everyone. I have a question. And first of all, I would like to thank Near Big Brain for this space. It has been very interesting so far. So I have a very specific question for Machina team. As we all know that security is a very important concept right now, like we have faced so many scams in this bear market. So my question is, how does Machina take help from HAPI and help to evolve? Like, what is the role that HAPI plays in order for the evolution and growth of Machina? That's what my question is.
So can you add a little more? I mean, I can talk generally about security, but I'm curious what you mean with just with Edge API specifically.
Yeah, so basically my question is like HAPI being like an online cybersecurity protocol. So how does the compatibility go with, like, you guys are basically a decentralized storage solution. So decentralized storage being the main concern. So how does the security role come into play? Basically, what is the functionality of HAPI? I just want to know more about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what what you mean by Edge API, but it's not something that's part of what we're building. For our security model, there's security is always layers, and so the especially when you're talking about things that are kind of programmatically driven infrastructure, it's really important that you build security into the system, but that you also build a lot of basically a lot of kind of thought into the APIs that people are using, so that we don't accidentally leak our data or share our data. But fundamentally, the data is split among multiple nodes. It's encrypted at rest, and the the user really has full control over that because they own their keys. And it's similar to your keys, your crypto. It's your keys, your data. So that node providers are not able to access it. The other side of it is, if there is data that you want to publish to the internet publicly, one of the things that we've been looking at within our API is to specifically make those a separate set of API calls. In some of the other infrastructure systems out there, that kind of action is actually just an attribute or an option that you put on an object. And I'm sure we've all seen a lot of interesting news stories about folks who have accidentally publicized entire data sets of people's healthcare records or social security numbers and that kind of thing. So those are you can say that's the customer's fault because they sent the wrong option through. But I think that it's also important to have to have it be very clear what an API is doing at kind of that level, so that you have to basically opt in to potentially more dangerous actions in that way. But yeah, I mean, security is very key, obviously, and you have to make sure that the protocol itself, it includes it, but then also that you're giving the tools and the APIs to users so that they can make good decisions and informed decisions about what their behavior is going to do.
Lovely stuff. A nice little technical question. So all the non-devs out there, I hope you was able to follow along. I think it's always really interesting to get the other side of the picture. Me myself, I'm not a dev, but when I worked on my NFT project, it was a gaming one on Discord, and I was very much always talking with our devs, building it out, and it is always nice to be able to be part of those sort of more technical conversations. Everyone, you're able to gain that little bit more experience, be able to contribute in those. So I think that it's really sort of exciting. And so thank you for breaking that down. It was a nice little tough question, but I think you did well there. And I think we also have our next community member, Happy Protocol. If you wanted to take the stage and ask your question to our lovely panel.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I'm not sure if DevBose was aware that he mispronounced happy, because that's, I think, where the question got missed. I think he was talking about where happy, the cybersecurity protocol, is involved with OnMachina. And I think, yeah, I'm just here to clarify his question. That's what I thought.
Okay, so HAPI. That's Hoppy was involved early on with some of the early research around OnMachina that kicked off some of the initial work at the beginning of this year, and Hoppy does have a set of security-oriented projects. I think that's separate from what we're doing with OnMachina now. It's definitely something that can be used within the overall framework of monitoring the on-chain activity, but it's not something that's kind of directly integrated into the storage protocol itself. And so this is I think that might have been what I missed. So thank you for hopping on to clarify that.
Yeah, no problem.
Not all heroes wear capes, and I think this is a lovely little example of it.
Happy keeping us happy. We appreciate that.
Amazing stuff. And again, this is why we always love having our spaces open for the community to be able to come up, because it's an open, we want to always be hosting these open discussions where we can bring people in and come up and talk about it. And another sort of side to that is also being able to, when we're talking about projects, really be able to dive in to what's going on. And we always love hearing that kind of behind the scenes of what it's been like building, and especially as we start to evolve more in Web3 and start to mature, there's lots of problems and challenges that all the projects we will face, and it's so valuable to be able to learn from one another. So I would love to take a moment and hear from you guys. What do you think has been the biggest challenge that you faced while building out your project, and what solutions did you find to those problems, or are you still looking for new ways to be able to solve them?
I can start with this and make it nice, short, and sweet. So, by far the biggest challenge is the legal environment of getting all your ducks in a row for incorporating, applying for the financial license, and becoming legally able to custody assets. That was tricky prior to SBF. Now, after FTX, it is daunting. And I think the sad reality is it's really just a grind. It's really just a willingness to continue to push and jump on the calls with the lawyers and move things along. It's relatively soul sucking, but I think someone has to do it, especially if we're thinking on an ecosystem level. So the strategy to mitigate it is to not give up and hope that the regulatory environment becomes a little bit more clear. I'll keep it at that.
Yeah, I think this is also a problem that there's just a lack of education around the spaces as well, because we are so young. There hasn't necessarily built out that central database of, if you're doing this project, this is where you'll need to go. And then from the regulatory point of view, they don't know how to handle it and how to be able to dealing with it. So I mean, you pointed out a very big problem that a lot of people do have to try and push through. And I think it's all about trying to find also those outlets where you can get the education, where if you're a new project coming through, that you can find out how to do it and find the people who can help guide you through that process. So even though it is arduous, you're having to jump on all of these calls, at least you have that guidance and you know where you're going to be going. And as we start to move forward, it will be exciting to see different sort of projects innovate in that sort of space as well. But OnMachina, you were going to say?
Yeah, I think hiring developers has been, like one of the challenges that is exactly the same in in the new world, in the old world. It's and what I think has been maybe an element to make it even harder in some levels is all of that that churn and everything that's happening in with FTX and kind of like there was already definitely a little bit of skepticism among a lot of developers, especially infrastructure developers who are not like they're just skeptical in general. I say that as one, but I think now that it's made it like a bigger leap for some of them to leave behind building really global scale infrastructure in a more traditional infrastructure organization to come over here because it's sort of the gray clouds. I think that to me, Ozzy said earlier about how bear markets are great times to build, and I think that's totally true. If you go back and you look at most of the most successful companies that have existed in any industry, they've come through those types of environments, and that's when they've really achieved kind of like that success that they later on consolidated into domination. Whether you're talking about an Amazon or a Google that came through the .com crash or others, and I think the key is finding people who are really bought into the vision and into the potential, and who are willing to build through some of that kind of like popular opinion distraction and just focus on the fundamentals. Because as you emerge from that, if you've built something really solid, then you're ready to take advantage of the next bull market, the incoming groundswell of users and all of that. If you get distracted by that, then that type of growth and that type of success can actually crush you under the weight of it. So it's I think hiring devs, I would say, is like a very specific thing that has actually gotten even more difficult just in the last couple of months with all of the current events.
Yeah, Web3 recruitment is also such again, it's like we need to build out the platforms. It's why on Near we have Be Experience as a very cool project that's moving forward, trying to help out in that world. A little bit of alpha. I know that they're working with Near on this, like really to be able to help solve it, like being able to bring developers who come through the Near University and getting them out there and secured. I think that's something that we can hope to see a lot more. And if you are a developer and if you don't already have the skills, then there's this nice path for you to go on. So when projects are looking for developers, there's a bigger pool of people to be able to come in and be able to assist in building, because we're all very passionate about our projects. And I think a big key of that is that you're finding a development team who also share that passion. And that just comes down to having that large pool for you to be able to be able to say, cool, so these are the people who are interested in what they're doing, who love what we're doing, and who will put that extra little bit of love and attention into building out. And I think that's always exciting when you can align on that, because it makes even building and the day-to-day that much more enjoyable. But I think this has been a lovely sort of spaces, everyone. We've had a good sort of opportunity to talk. And so what I want to do now for like the final sort of question is for you guys, what are you most looking forward to over the next few months you have any big milestones that you're building towards? Anything that we should be keeping an eye on from the community point of view? Any way that we can get in contact with you? Where's the best place to meet you guys and to be able to continue looking and diving into your projects?
Cool. Yeah, I just want to say thanks to both Cap.boo and Big Brain for putting on this space. Definitely need this kind of stuff in the community during the bear market to keep everyone kind of aware of things are still happening and it's not the end of the world and it's probably going to come back bigger and better than ever before. For us, so you can follow us on Twitter at Spaceport Labs and the website's launchspaceport.io. Our goal is to try to get a V1 out probably mid Q2 of this year. So pay attention to sign up, pay attention to Twitter. We'll probably be having a special beta program for people to test it out before it goes full fledged. And the goal, by the end of 2023 is to have, the top games of Near and the top dApps of Near accessible to the emerging world of crypto enthusiasts, specifically in the Near ecosystem.
Yeah, this is Mark from OnMachina. I think thank you also to the hosts of this space, Big Brain, Cap.boo. It's been awesome. I think we're looking forward to next year, really emerging from stealth and starting to do some more public testing and getting a test net online. And in terms of IRL, I know Consensus is going to be in Austin again in April. So Jonathan and I are actually based in Austin, so we'll definitely be there and hope that a lot of you are there as well. And I know, of course, there'll be another NearCon and other places we can cross paths. But and then, of course, you can also meet us in Denver for ETH Denver and the Near activities that are happening around that. We'll be participating in that as well. So that was kind of in a random order, ETH Denver for being the soonest. But just love spaces, but also love to get connected with people in the real world as well. And online, of course, we're at onmachina.io or OnMachina or any other way you want to pronounce it. It's kind of a dealer's choice, but we're just excited to get to know more people in and around Near, and also just app developers that need storage. We think we've talked to a lot of app developers already who have tried some of the other Web3 storage and had some good feedback to give us, but what they'd like to see in a different alternative Web3 storage. And of course, many operators, developers who are running on S3. So meeting folks like that will be continue to be really important for us. But we're looking forward to all those things next year.
Now, Machina, I would be keen to see what an NFT project would look like partnered with you. I think that would do amazing wonders for the community. So just kind of throwing it out there as my Christmas wish list, and we'll see what happens there. But I think it would be pretty exciting.
I like it.
Awesome. Well, Cap, I will let you take it away unless you guys have one final thing you'd like to say, but I think that you pretty much summed it up. So, Cap, I bought you some new speakers, or maybe you bought yourself some AirPods. So if you'd like to take it away, thank you everybody for attending. Thank you for our guest, and we will see you soon.